What is up, you guys, and welcome back to my channel. I think I have finally settled into my new office. This should be my permanent filming setup from here on out. It's possibly a little echoey still. I don't have everything filled into the other half of my office yet, but just drop a comment down below real quick letting me know if the audio for the most part is sounding all right so far. Lighting's all right, because obviously those are some pretty key things for you guys to consume my content and hear these stories. So today we are going to be speaking about the disappearance of Echo Lloyd, who is a 48-year-old woman from Edwards, Missouri that went missing on Mother's Day of 2020. So this is a much more recent case, and it's actually one that has kind of taken over the true crime genre by storm. Echo's daughter, Kelsey, has been at the forefront of everything. Kelsey has tirelessly worked with the help of other family members to run their Facebook page, Bring Echo Home, their GoFundMe. They have a whole entire website. She's been speaking to podcasts, doing interviews, and really made sure that Echo's face stays at the forefront of everyone's minds. And y'all, she has done her rounds and has been on YouTube channels that I didn't even know existed. And I'm so thankful I've finally been introduced to. And so after a huge flood of suggestions from you guys, I'm here today to speak about Echo's story. Echo went missing under very strange circumstances, and everyone needs to know about it so that hopefully someone that may have possibly seen something or heard something can come forward and let authorities know. But before I get into the details of this case, you guys, I have to thank Flamingo for sponsoring today's video. You guys have probably already heard me rave about Harry's, which is actually the team that created Flamingo in 2018. And Flamingo itself is just a really awesome company that basically has everyone covered for their body care needs, whether that is hair removal or just moisturizing your skin for healthy hair growth and comfort. I know that we all make very different choices in terms of body maintenance, and as someone that has a lot of sensory issues, I personally have to shave or I will literally come out of my skin. But I've always had a huge issue with just tossing whole razors constantly. I always have issues with having reactions with different gels and shaving creams. Flamingo has taken care of all of that for me for, at this point, years now. Flamingo provides reusable and ergonomically designed handles that makes shaving comfortable, and when you need a new razor, you don't have to throw the whole thing away. All you have to do is pop in a refill, which reduces a lot of waste and is important in my lifestyle. Their subscription service is also super customizable, it's flexible, and honestly life-saving because I am incredibly forgetful. When you go to Flamingo, you take a very quick and easy quiz to let them know your body care preferences, the certain needs that you have, and they provide you with a personalized list of recommended products. Now, I was recommended the Shave Starter Set. It also comes with a really convenient little shower hook, so I don't forget where my razor is. Don't ask me why I have these problems. It's just a thing. I also recommended the foaming shave gel, which is something I've also used at this point for, I believe, 2 full years because it doesn't irritate my skin, and obviously the blade refills. Honestly, in my opinion, Flamingo has absolutely hit the nail on the head. They aren't tailored to just one form of body care or preference, and they kind of give space to everyone to take care of themselves the way that they choose and see fit. And the main reason that I love this company, probably more so than anything else I've already stated, is because they donate a percentage of their sales to nonprofits that work to support women's mental, physical, and emotional health all around the world. And I feel like as a consumer, when you're buying something as consistently as you buy razors and body care, you might as well get it from a brand that takes some of that money and gives back. Find your perfect routine and get 10% off your first order when you take the quiz in my description box and use my code Danielle Hallen at checkout. Thank you again to Flamingo for sponsoring today's video, and just to really reiterate this, since I get comments about this all the time, it is because of brands like Flamingo and the other few that I work with so consistently that I'm able to donate to families to help with costs with things like reward money, putting up flyers, consistently donating to GoFundMes, whatever these families need. So having brands that, first of all, understand what the true crime community is doing, they're willing to kind of step on a ledge and back us. It's really important for not just myself, but other true crime creators. So we are able to give back to these families. So now on to the details of this case. Echo Lloyd is a beautiful person, loved by so many, and I feel like you have to go and watch her daughter's live streams on Facebook or any of her interviews to really see, how important Echo was to so many people. She was born in Harrisonville, Missouri, and was a longtime resident of Pleasant Hill. I believe that is where she raised all of her children. She had 4 children total. She had 3 girls and 1 boy. And at the time of her disappearance, she had 3 grandchildren, and one of them, I believe, was only a few weeks at the time. Friends and family were the 2 things that meant the absolute most to Echo. They mattered the most, and anyone that knew Echo for any period of time immediately saw that. On a personal note, Echo was kind of a free spirit. That's just kind of the feeling that I got when I was listening to everyone speak about her. You always saw her smiling. Her daughter Kelsey always said it was the most contagious smile, and you can even see that in the pictures. She was always one that was up for exploring. She loved to be outside in nature, adventuring around, and this is probably why she ended up on 10 acres of land off of the Truman River in Edwards, Missouri. She wanted to be close to the river. She wanted to have places to explore. And according to friends and family, one of her favorite things to do, especially on this property, was kind of go off into the woods and go mushroom hunting. And if she wasn't elbow deep in the middle of the outdoors, she was in her she shed creating. I don't know what she would create. I don't know if she would paint or if she would just craft, but I do know that she poured her heart into every single thing that she did. So I'm sure whatever it was absolutely amazing. Echo was also a shoulder to lean on all the time, no matter what. She was the kind of person that would give you the shirt off of her back. If you needed someone to talk to you about something, she would stop everything and listen and talk to you about it. If you just needed someone to listen to you, she would always sit quietly and patiently and listen. She was a big people pleaser. She loved to give and do for others, and that was one of the greatest things about her. So before moving onto her land in 2019, she started going through the process of separating from her husband at the time. And she was trying to navigate this new world of being alone. This was entirely new, and now she's alone on 10 acres of land in a pretty rural area. She was really excited about it. The separation, from my understanding, was not anything tumultuous. There were no custody battles. They hadn't even gone through the process of getting a divorce yet. From what I've seen a couple people state, it had already been like 2 years of separation at this point. So it was nothing bad, but it was definitely something different for Echo. And it was supposed to be this new, fresh start for her. But unfortunately, something along the line went incredibly wrong. On May 9th, 2020, the day before it is believed Echo disappeared, Kelsey spoke to her mom, Echo, on the phone. So that day, Echo had seen 2 of her best friends. They had stopped by her house, and she gave them a couple of cards for her grandchildren. And she was basically calling Kelsey to speak to her, make sure that her kids got the cards, just to check in on her. He wanted to make sure that Kelsey's younger sister got a text message from her, and everything seemed all right until the following day. May 10th, 2020 was Mother's Day, and I don't believe Kelsey heard from her mom most of the day. So after a while, Kelsey decided to just go on over to her mom's house to personally drop off her card and her gift to her. And this was at around 3:30 to 4 that I believe she was arriving at her mom's house. When she got there, her mom's car was not in the driveway, so she wasn't there, and Kelsey decided to just write a quick note on the back of the card saying, I love you, happy Mother's Day, call me when you get home. And she left the card and the plant that she had gotten her mom on the stoop. As the day progressed and turned to night, Kelsey was expecting a phone call from her mom, but that call never came in. So starting the next morning and for the next 4 days, Kelsey called her mom every morning and night and received no answer. Now, when she first started calling on Monday morning, it's my understanding that both her cell phone and her home phone went straight to voicemail. And at some point, the home phone just straight up said it was disconnected. Now, I don't know how home phones are anymore. I remember growing up that you had to all you had to do is physically disconnect it from the wall, and it would say it was disconnected. I don't know if now it means like disconnected as in you called and canceled the service. Honestly, I don't know. I don't have one. But it was just definitely strange. Her mom would never go this amount of time without contact, and it was very alarming. So by Thursday, Kelsey decided to reach out to someone that was closest to her mom at the time, and this was her neighbor. So Kelsey reached out to this neighbor and said, have you seen my mom? Do you know what's going on? She's not reached out to me in a couple of days. And this neighbor said, oh, I'll make sure she calls you later. And that was that. Again, Kelsey sits all night Thursday waiting for this phone call, and the phone call doesn't come in. So by Friday morning, she decides to call this neighbor again and says, look, you said you'd call last night. Have you seen her yet? What's going on? You're right beside her. You're her neighbor. And this neighbor said, no, I haven't seen her yet. I'll make sure to tell her, though, to call you later. And at this point, Kelsey's like, no, I'm not doing this again. I'm just going to go and look for her myself. I'm going to go and check on her myself. So Kelsey left her home and arrived at her mom's house at around, I believe, 10:30 in the morning on Friday, the 15th of May, 2020. And when she arrived, she saw that her mom's car was in the driveway. So I'm sure she at this point was kind of assuming, okay, she's home, she's here. Maybe she's not answering this morning because she's asleep. And another thing that I really want to make apparent is that cell service in this area was really, really bad. According to Kelsey, you'd basically have to climb onto her mom's railing of her house and get the phone up by the roof in order to have signal most of the time. So I'm sure, there was a thought of maybe, her cell phone's not getting signal. That's why she isn't calling me or answering the phone. But either way, she gets to the house and decides, you know what, I'm going to knock on her window because Echo is I was going to say a night person. I don't know if she's a night person. I just know she wasn't a morning person. And so she would normally sleep until about 11 to 12. And when Kelsey would come over earlier than when her mom would normally be awake, she'd always go and knock on her window to wake her up. It was kind of like a fun way she messed with her as her daughter. And so that's exactly what she did. She went and started knocking on her mom's window and calling out for her, but she was receiving no response. She went to the door again and started banging on the door as well. And after a few minutes, there was still no response. So at this point, Kelsey heads to the neighbor's house because she's thinking, if she's not here and her car is here, the only explanation is that she's at the neighbor's house. So she went over there and knocked on the door and again, wasn't receiving a response there either. She knocked for a while, was knocking on windows and started to just scream out to her mom, be like, Echo, mommy, where are you? She started to scream out, saying, Mom, if you're in there, you need to come out now. I'm about to call the cops. I'm going to report you missing. I don't know where you are. Are you in there? And as soon as she started saying all those things, the neighbor came out of the home. So again, Kelsey's like, look, have you seen my mom? When's the last time you saw her? I need more details than this. They still claimed they hadn't seen her mom. And so Kelsey's like, okay, well, I need to get into her house to make sure she's safe. And Kelsey knew for a fact that this neighbor had keys, which again, we'll dive real deep into later on in this video. But she knew this neighbor had keys and was like, look, can I get the keys to my mom's house? I've got to go make sure she's not hurt inside. And this person said, oh, I actually don't have the keys anymore because either on the 9th or the 10th, and I've never been able to really figure out for sure which day it was, this neighbor claimed that she had wanted to be by herself. Echo demanded to have the keys back from the neighbor and said she just wanted to be left alone. So Kelsey heads back to the house and she's thinking at this point, I've got to break in. There could be something wrong. Especially, hearing if your mom that's for the most part, very social. Everyone likes their moments alone, obviously, but to hear that, it really worried her. So she went back to the house and she found that one of the windows in the home was unlocked. And it wasn't just unlocked, it was actually already halfway out, which to me is a very important detail to remember. Kelsey doesn't remember if the window had always been like this or, whatever. I don't think it had been based on other information I will give you in a little while. I feel like her mom would have known right away and fixed it if it was. But she sees this window already pretty much open. And so she, screams out to her mom that she's breaking in, she's coming in. She gets in through the window and she calls out to her mom and still nothing. And everywhere she looks in the house, her mom is not there. But instantly upon stepping foot in that house, she knew that something was wrong. The house looked like someone had been in it, but it just wasn't her mom. Echo was very, very particular about keeping things neat and clean. And I feel like no one knows that better than someone's child, because they probably grew up constantly being told to keep things neat and clean. And Kelsey knew how her mom kept her house, and this was not it. There were random piles of trash all over the house, like small piles of trash. She says she can't even really describe how odd they were. And there was rotting, moldy food on the counter. And Echo kept things neat to the point where she was having some renovations done in her home. She was fixing some things up. I think at the time the living room was being worked on. But even in even in the chaos of construction, like if there were dirty areas, those dirty areas were organized. Like she kept it all looking as clean as it possibly could. So the idea that she would just leave trash everywhere and moldy food out, absolutely not. And when Kelsey got into her mom's room, even more red flags. The first thing she saw was the note that Kelsey had left her for Mother's Day. Her Mother's Day card was opened up on the top of her dresser in her room. I forgot to mention it earlier, but the plant was actually still outside, but it had been moved to a different location. And Kelsey did think that was weird because her mom likely would have taken it inside and wouldn't have left it out there. And then she noticed that her mom's cigarettes and lighter were sitting on the nightstand beside her bed, and underneath the nightstand was her purse. And these are two things Echo goes nowhere without. I'm sure most people can vouch based on personal experience or someone in their family. Smokers go nowhere without their cigarettes and lighter. So those two things would have been with Echo at all times. And she was even crazier about her purse being with her. She always had her purse on her at all times. She was the kind of person where even if she went from one room to another in the house, or if she just went to go step out on her front porch for quite literally like a minute to smoke a cigarette, that purse was going to be coming with her. And when Kelsey looked into Echo's purse, she was even more alarmed because her wallet was in there. With all of her cash. Her ID was still in there. So all of these important things that she would have had to take with her to really successfully go anywhere and do anything, and that she always had on her, were for some reason left behind in this house. So at this point, there were also a few things that Kelsey immediately noticed were missing. Echo's keys were not there, which was interesting because her car was and the door was locked. So it just was weird that the keys weren't there. Her phone was nowhere to be found either. Now, there also were some medications that were missing. And I don't think all of them were missing. I haven't gotten like the exact information about this. I know that she did struggle with depression. I mean, when you're going through a separation, no matter how civil it is, it's just not a good time. And so she had been prescribed antidepressants and relied on those daily. And so I believe those were the ones that were no longer there. They were gone. She also always carried a revolver on her because she had been assaulted about a decade prior. And from that moment on, she always wore her revolver on her hip. So you have all these other important things that are also missing. Her makeup was still there though. All of her clothing, from what Kelsey could tell, it didn't look like she had packed herself up any bag or anything to leave for a while. And even if she did, it wouldn't make sense for her to not take her purse with her or her cigarettes or her car. So at this point, Kelsey called Benton County Sheriff's Department and explained to them the situation. And it took about 30 minutes for them to arrive, just to kind of give you an idea how kind of out in the middle of nowhere this is. I don't like saying out in the middle of nowhere. It's just very rural because there are definitely houses around. I mean, it's a busy river and lake that a lot of people enjoy. But in terms of like getting to regular city life, like in city limits, it's definitely a bit of a trek. So while she was waiting for authorities to arrive, Kelsey decided to keep on looking for her mom. And you guys, she left no stone unturned. She was looking in closets. She said she even looked in the fridge. She picked up like boards from the floor to look underneath. She looked underneath the house. She looked in the she shed. She walked the property. She was screaming out for her mom, and her mom was nowhere to be found. When authorities arrived, they spoke to Kelsey to get her statement, and she immediately told them that this was just not her mom. This was not a state that her mother would leave her home in. There had been times before, like I said, where Echo had kind of gone off for a weekend, but she always told people where she was going. It was like a quick getaway for herself, but it was never a secretive thing. And she definitely wouldn't go an entire week without speaking to everyone. They had just spoken the night before. She didn't mention doing anything, going anywhere, nothing. And also, Kelsey was very worried because while she was searching for her mom, she found a receipt from Walmart dated to May the 10th, 2020. So as of Mother's Day, there is proof that Echo was out and about doing something in the area. The Walmart is in Warsaw, which is the closest larger town to her home. And this receipt was signed by Echo. Kelsey knew that that was Echo's signature. So what happened that day to where she was out shopping and then all of a sudden she never got in contact with her family again and just vanished? Echo loved her family. Echo loved her friends. She loved her grandbabies, her new grandbabies, and she wouldn't just drop off the face of the earth willingly. And Kelsey told authorities that there was someone she was concerned about: the neighbor. So to give some background on why Kelsey was worried about this neighbor, Kelsey actually lived with Echo for a short period of time right after she moved onto this 10-acre property. Kelsey was waiting and in the process of purchasing a home of her own, and she kind of needed a middle space, a middle ground in between. And so she was with Echo for, I'm not sure how long, but some period of time. So about a month into Echo owning this home, the neighbor came to introduce himself, and the way he did so just took them back a little bit. This neighbor that Echo didn't know yet just walked out of the woods behind her house on her property. It just really immediately kind of set a strange tone. Now, Echo, being like a friendly, people-pleasing person, took this neighbor around to the front of the house and wanted to introduce him to Kelsey, wanted to get to know him. She's new to the town, new to the area. She was also, looking for friends and people to connect with, and so they had like a conversation. But according to Kelsey, from this point on, this man kind of didn't ever leave at all. And like, there's really no better way to explain it than that. So the way Kelsey's described it is that this man did not have any boundaries. While he didn't live necessarily at Echo's house, he was always there. He would just kind of walk through the woods and pop up unannounced all the time. If the door was unlocked, he would let himself in. He wouldn't knock first, wouldn't call first. He just showed up. And this continued for months. That this man just continuously came onto her property, continuously just showed up in her house. And it got to the point that Echo started to make sure her doors were locked all the time. Her windows were locked all the time. She constantly kept her blinds shut because she felt like there was no privacy, none. And that's what makes me question that the window had been like that for a while, because if Echo was concerned about her safety and had already been checking the windows and doors consistently, I don't think that window would have been like that for an extended period of time without her knowing it. And so it makes me wonder about forced entry. So like I said, this guy just wasn't getting it, that he wasn't allowed to just show up whenever he wanted to and stay as long as he wanted to. And when he would be asked to leave, he still wouldn't leave. And it seems like he wasn't ever aggressive. And I know, unfortunately, enough about manipulation to know that, like, it's sneaky. And it's very possible that every time they asked him to leave, he could have just pretended like he didn't hear them. Or, he's busy doing yard work over here. Or, oh, but there's this one thing that I really wanted to show you first. There's so many ways that this could have played out. So I really want to make sure the harsh comments are kind of kept non-existent, because there's so many ways this could have happened to where it didn't come off as alarming as it is now looking into it. So when the holidays did finally arrive, however, Echo decided she'd kind of had enough. She wrote a note to the neighbor and was like, look, I'm going to be spending time with my family this holiday season, and I want to dedicate my time to them. If I want you to come over or hang out, like, I will reach out to you and let you know. And he got the note and everything. She expected things to go fine. But when family arrived for Christmas, this man was just hanging out in her yard, doing things around the yard. I don't know what he was doing. Like I said, I feel like he hid him, like, inserting himself into the home too much under this guise of, oh, but I'm helping you do this, I'm helping you do that. That's just the vibe that I personally get from listening to everyone describe what happened. So at this point, Kelsey actually sat down with this man and was like, look, we're going to discuss boundaries because you don't have any. And they really did this in hopes that he would finally get the picture and her mom would have some peace. It's just really difficult when you have someone who's possibly manipulative or oversteps boundaries. They prey on people who are people pleasers, because a people pleaser doesn't want confrontation. They don't want to make you uncomfortable. So Kelsey strongly feels like this man was preying on her good nature, and the fact that she, was trying to find new friends and start this new life. But unfortunately, their conversation did nothing to change his behavior. By late April, so it's just a few months after, I believe, Kelsey sat down and had a conversation with this man, Echo showed up at Kelsey's house, just a little uncomfortable. It was about 2 weeks prior to Echo's disappearance, and she began to explain to Kelsey that things were out of control. This neighbor, this man, had taken over everything. He had her keys, he had her car, he had taken over her house, he had taken over her money. According to what she said, everything was a group effort. Echo was not allowed to do anything without this man saying yes or no to it. But at this point, she had realized something was not right here. He had snaked his way in and now had managed a total takeover. She was so shocked to hear this information from her mom and begged her to stay with her until they could figure out what to do together. But Echo was also, this very independent woman who, at this point had been on her own for a while. She carried this revolver. She said she had it and felt protected. And she was very determined to go back home that day and make this guy leave, basically. She wanted to take her life back. She wanted her house back, her keys, everything. According to Kelsey's most recent live streams on the Facebook page, this man had already taken her phone, and Kelsey had gotten upset with her mom because she was sending pictures of her newborn child to her mom, and Echo wasn't responding. And come to find out, it's because Echo didn't have her cell phone. This man was getting all of these text messages and telling Echo that he had pictures of her grandchild and wouldn't let her see them. So at this point, Echo left, determined to get this guy to permanently leave. She told Kelsey, she was like, you know what? No, this is it. Like, I'm kicking him out. He will be gone. And, Kelsey's like, all right, just keep in contact with me. Let me know what I can do. And after that, everything seemed okay, actually. over the next 2 weeks, Echo kept in close contact with Kelsey, especially that last week leading up to when she went missing. She was calling Kelsey every day, if not every other day. She seemed fine. She was just, checking in on her again since she just had a baby and, all these things. Everything seemed all right. And I'm unsure if she ever gave Kelsey an update on the neighbor. But once her mom stopped responding to phone calls, and once the neighbor started saying that they hadn't seen Echo when the whole last months and months and months they had not been able to leave Echo's side or her house, her property, even when told to do so, Kelsey knew something was off and she was worried. The neighbor also told Kelsey that he was actually with Echo on the 10th at Walmart. So on top of all of the other information that was already alarming to Kelsey, the fact that this person was now also the last known person to be with Echo before she just dropped off the face of the earth was strange. And it was interesting that this neighbor also told Kelsey that Echo had asked for the keys back on the 9th or the 10th just before disappearing. And out of all of the times that this individual was told to not come back to the house and hadn't listened for a year, all of a sudden this one time that Echo vanishes is the one time they decided to not bother her and come back. Now, when Kelsey told this information to authorities, they didn't seem too alarmed by it at first. Again, according to the most recent live updates, they kind of told Kelsey, you don't know that for a fact that this person did anything. It could be a plethora of other things, which is very true. At this point, they hadn't investigated anything yet. So they kind of went on into those steps. The first thing they wanted to do was look around the entire home, but also, according to Kelsey, they never wore any gloves while doing this. They never really treated the home as if it was a potential crime scene, which in Kelsey's mind, it absolutely was. And she said that even while she was in the house, her mind kept racing, saying don't touch anything, be careful what you touch, be careful, what you do. But authorities just kind of came in a little willy-nilly about it. They did do a brief search around her property, just checked everywhere that Kelsey pretty much checked to make sure that Echo wasn't hiding somewhere. And they also went to speak to neighbors. They spoke to more than just the neighbor that's questionable. And when they finally did get to that neighbor, they had the same problem getting in contact with him as Kelsey did. They knocked on his door quite a handful of times, and he didn't come out. They had to bang on his windows and come back, I think, a few times before he finally did. And he said that he just didn't answer because he was taking a nap, which was just another big red flag to Kelsey, because she had gone over there and spoken to this neighbor, the same neighbor that literally wouldn't leave Echo alone for months, and said that she was missing. And instead of, coming to help, like you would assume someone, that persistent to be in someone's life would, they went and took a nap and then didn't answer to authorities. It just seemed a little off. I don't know how much they questioned this neighbor when authorities were speaking to him. And unfortunately, to this day, Echo's family doesn't know still how much this person was questioned. So the following day, Saturday, May the 11th, was the first kind of boots on the ground, big intense search for Echo. At this point, Echo's husband that she was separating from had come into town to help. I do want to go ahead and state that he has been fully ruled out as having any sort of involvement. First of all, their relationship was not a bad relationship to begin with. There was no tension, despite the fact that they had been separated. They'd been separated for a long time, and he wasn't even anywhere near town during this time period. The family gathered along with the Benton County Sheriff's Department, volunteer firefighters, and they started to check the 10 acres of land. I believe there was about 25 people in all that were there. Since she loved the woods so much and had so much land, they kind of worried that she maybe had gone off to explore and possibly got hurt and was just out there and needed some help. So they were really trying to make sure they checked everywhere possible. But unfortunately, they were not able to find any sign of Echo anywhere. Now, once the search was concluded that Saturday, they were supposed to come back the following day on Sunday with dogs to do searches with them. But after this search, the sheriff's department decided to call off the dog search and stop searches in general at the property. They stated that they had no reason to believe that Echo disappeared from her home. Now, this is a little bit shocking because of the state of the house. Echo never left her house without her belongings. So the fact that everything that she always took with her was left behind, other than her phone, keys, and pistol, this indicates that at the very least, in my opinion, she did not leave her property willingly. And when you think about those three things in terms of like importance and situationally, it does not lead down really many good roads, especially because her car was still there. So why would she have needed her keys? There are also 13,000 acres butting up to the back of her property. It's all like uninhabited, owned land that's just basically thick woods. And it's very possible that Echo could have wandered past her property line and onto this property and needed help. But authorities really just didn't want to do the search there anymore. Now, I don't know what led authorities to believe that Echo did not disappear from her home. If they don't think she disappeared from her home, that would indicate that she either left on foot, which if you've seen the maps of the area so far is not very likely, that she's somewhere in those woods and they need to be searching that area, or someone else was involved. And if those are the things that they're thinking of, they should have immediately taken more into consideration the concern that Kelsey had for this neighbor. If no other friends are coming forward saying that they picked her up that day, there's nothing of the sorts, she didn't even take the things that she would have taken anyways. I just don't understand their decision. At this point, authorities were able to check and see that Echo had not used any of her bank cards. I know they did keep an eye on her prescriptions as well, and from my understanding, none of them were refilled again. And again, these are ones that she really relied on daily. And then finally, kind of like the first big interesting tip came in just days after Echo's disappearance. So Kelsey ended up getting a call from someone that worked at one of the Warsaw Dollar Generals. I believe there's two separate locations, but one of them is directly beside the Walmart in Warsaw, which we already know she was at. I don't know for a fact that it was that one. Common sense just tells me more than likely. So this person had seen Echo sometime around her disappearance, but they couldn't say for sure when. Now, it was later confirmed to be on Mother's Day. According to this person, I believe it was a cashier, Echo came in that day looking like she'd been to hell and back. Echo frequented Dollar General, but they said she did not look well. And she attempted to buy something and wasn't able to. And at this point, they offered for her to use the phone so that she could get in contact with someone to come and help her or something. This kind of tells you the state that Echo may have been in. She denied this. She said no. And then they offered to walk her out to her car. Again, she said no, but also this really kind of tells you that these individuals felt like Echo did not feel safe and wanted someone to protect her. There's a lot to be said about just this whole interaction in general, but she also denied this and she left. So authorities went to speak to this Dollar General. I know that they spoke to the manager and not the cashier. The manager was in fact there at the time, but did not have the same sort of interaction as this cashier did. So I'm not sure why they didn't speak to the cashier. But the manager kind of confirmed the exact same things and said that she left and met up with a group of individuals outside of Dollar General. There was a little issue where the media said that the Dollar General she was at was in an entirely different location. Kelsey and the family were able to fully confirm that it was a Warsaw location. But the main issue is that they would have had security footage, especially at this point being just a few days after Echo's disappearance. But authorities have not released that footage even to the family. Now, they don't have to release that to the public. They have to protect the integrity of the investigation. If she was last seen at this Dollar General, according to the timeline they've created from the Walmart receipt, when she was seen at this Dollar General on the security footage, those people could very well be the people that were the last ones to see Echo. But at the same time, you would almost think they would want to release that so that people could tell them who they were. But they didn't. They haven't even showed the video footage to the family, which is also alarming because typically the first thing that is done is family sees surveillance to confirm for a fact that that individual seen on the footage is their family member. But that wasn't done. Another thing that bothers me is the fact that this could very well be the last video footage of Echo, and therefore would have shown what she was wearing that day. Did she have her purse on her? So did she go home after this? And that's how her purse ended up there. What's her demeanor? Again, authorities haven't released any of it. And I just don't understand that, because when you look at a missing persons poster, the things that you see without fail on every single one is their name, their age, the day they went missing, location they went missing, who they were last seen with, and what they were wearing when they were last seen. So do they just not have the footage and they've just not said that to anyone? Or do they have that information and just for some reason they're not telling it to anybody? And this is one of the many reasons that the family started to get really frustrated. They made it very clear numerous times through all of their live streams that they totally understand that in order to protect the integrity of an investigation, there are absolutely things that investigators just can't hand over willy-nilly. And that goes for every single case. And it's just the reality of it, as frustrating as it can be. Anyone that's looking into this case at this point can see that information that is typically always shared, not just to the family, but publicly, hasn't even been told to the family. And that is not normal. Things that are crucial to have out there so that the public can, bring in tips, give authorities leads, all this information that they're saying they don't have and need, they're not sharing it. All of that information is not information that is crucial to keep quiet so that a possible suspect gets away. That is just general missing persons information. So we've got possible footage from the Dollar General. We have possible footage from the Walmart that would at least prove that this neighbor was in fact one of the last people with her. Again, I don't know if the families know for a fact authorities have this or if they're just assuming because it would make perfect sense for them to have it that they do. All I know is they haven't seen it. We know no information from it at all. I understand the Walmart one. Again, Dollar General, not so much. But in the most recent live videos that Kelsey has posted on Facebook, she's very frustrated with authorities. She has expressed that the whole family was kind of told not to mention Echo right after this happened. And don't go to the media, don't post anything about it on Facebook, keep it within the family, and that's it. And as someone who, obviously, I'm not a professional, I am not a police officer, I'm not a detective, I'm not in the FBI, I'm not a sheriff, I'm not a deputy, it's still way off base from everything that I've ever looked into in the past years. I've not seen this before. If you have a missing person, the immediate goal is always to spread awareness as fast as possible. It is like a mad dash to the finish line when someone goes missing, to get a missing persons poster up, to get their last known whereabouts out, to have all of the media locally cover it. And it's just so strange that for some reason it seems they're saying authorities didn't want that and didn't allow it. And the only thing that I can think of that would make all of this make sense would be if they right off the bat knew this wasn't a missing persons case because they planned to switch it to a homicide as soon as possible. which if that were the case, that would mean that they immediately knew from the get-go that, or had evidence that someone was possibly responsible for this. Because if you have a missing person, they go missing and police come in and immediately they feel it's something different, I can see why you would quiet that, because you don't want to alert the person you're about to go after that you're going after them. But guess what? As of today, authorities still state that there is no foul play suspected in Echo Lloyd's case. There has never been a person of interest that's been labeled. Again, no foul play that they suspect. So if the only reason to keep her case quiet was to preserve evidence because you were pretty certain there was someone responsible, and now you're saying that there's no foul play involved, nothing was done that should have been done at the start of investigating where on earth is Echo Lloyd. Why did they want the case quiet? Echo's family has also stated in interviews that her car was taken in for forensics. I know that 2 weeks after she disappeared, a forensics team was brought into the house. They were told a lot of different forensics were done, but they were never told details of anything. They never got any results of anything. Again, that's not super odd. That's evidence. That's really good evidence to have if they find something. And since they haven't seemed to find anything else that they've publicly put out, and there's nothing like super obvious evidence-wise that they've released, they might just want that information to keep because it's all they have and they know they're relying on it. However, I also worry because if her house was not treated as a crime scene from the get-go, that's a ton of evidence that's just gone. And why did it take 2 weeks for them to come and process the scene? This just all seems like an uphill battle. Authorities did initially help in the search on day one. From my understanding, at least as of the most recent interviews and the recent videos that have been posted, there has yet to be another search where authorities are involved. I know that family has searched the property themselves again. They have gotten permission to search some areas around Echo's property. They have been busy handing out flyers and posting flyers and speaking to the media and answering questions on the Facebook page if they're able to, and just diligently working on making sure that everybody knows Echo and her story. I know that Kelsey has asked numerous times about Echo's phone. They have told her repeatedly that, it was just making its way up the chain of command. They had to get the right warrants, and that does sound right. It can sometimes be very difficult with these different phone companies to get warrants for their phone records and all this information. But now it's been over a year, and from my understanding, they still don't have that information. I know that the last time Echo spoke to anyone about the phone, she was even asked, well, what do you want off of it? And she was like, what do you mean? What do I want off of it? I want you to do your job and get all the information off of it. It's just frustrating because at this point in time, so many different amazing organizations have reached out to try to help Kelsey and her family. I'm talking like Texas EquiSearch. Tim Miller, being the amazing human he is, was ready to drop everything and come out there and help Kelsey. But he was denied because they said they had nowhere to start. They had no starting point to give him of where to search. And the fact that they're going to say that to Tim Miller while also making it very blatantly obvious that they have not even checked the pings on her phone or anything, it's frustrating because the answer of where to start could very well be in that phone. They shouldn't be having to ask Kelsey what she wants out of it. Check the pings. Where did it last ping? Obviously, the phone is not in the house from my understanding. I don't think anyone's found it, so that phone either went with her and is wherever she is, or the phone went with the person that possibly did something to her. So is it still pinging now? Where are the last places that she was? What was her movement like that day? Who were the last people that spoke to her on the phone? What were her text messages like? What were her voicemails like? There's so much information that could have been found in that to give people a starting point. And it's just really unsettling that instead of finding that information, the authorities are asking Kelsey, well, what do you want us to look for? I have seen on a few different interviews, there are interviews that have been done by retired detectives, and they're awesome. I have them linked down below. They have just amazing YouTube channels in general. But they said one of the main reasons, pretty much one of the only reasons that authorities would have decided that Echo was not missing from the house, that she went missing somewhere else, is if the phone pinged elsewhere. But given the fact that they have not handed this information over to Kelsey or any of her family, and they also have, complete lack of action and total lack of redirection after ending the searches at the house. Like if they really did have another ping or any evidence that took them elsewhere, they would have chased that immediately after leaving Echo's home. But the fact that they went nowhere after that tells me they just ended the search just to end it. And I don't get it. It just seemed to be dismissed prematurely. Echo also was not labeled as an endangered missing person, despite the fact that she did rely on taking daily medication. I also find it interesting that she's not on NamUs, and John Lorden had brought this up in an interview, I believe about 7 or 8 months ago. According to Kelsey, they were trying to get her up on NamUs, and NamUs basically told them they were waiting on a few things from the police department. And typically what that means is, they're waiting on very specific things like case number, location, date, times, description, things like that. Very easy things that should be dealt with very quickly. But I literally just checked as of the day I'm filming this, and she's still not on NamUs. It's like they don't want anyone to know she's missing, and I just don't get why. And I don't know if that's their intentions. But it's just really heartbreaking. By August of 2020, Benton County Sheriff's Department finally came forward, though, and announced that they were handing the case over to the Missouri Highway State Patrol. They said they were a small department. They did not have the means to handle this case at all. They didn't have the manpower, the resources to do the investigative work, so they were handing it over, which I think they should have done way earlier than this. But this could be a huge reason why all of these questions are left unanswered, because they genuinely just didn't have the time or ability to handle a case like this on top of what was already going on. But at the same time, I feel like it was just kind of a total neglect to Echo's case. Again, that is just my personal opinion. But I really hoped once I read this information that now that the case was handed over, that things would finally get going, that she would finally be in NamUs, that a description would finally be out, so people can call in tips. Did someone see her walking on the side of the road or with someone or in the car somewhere that day? But unfortunately, I still have seen absolutely no change. And I think that Texas EquiSearch was actually told to not come after Missouri State Highway Patrol already had taken the case over, because they took it over in August of 2020. And I believe it was December of 2020 that Texas EquiSearch was told not to come, or at least Kelsey was on interviews and saying that they were supposed to come, and then they eventually weren't able to. So I'm not sure really what's going on. I don't know what efforts Missouri State Highway Patrol are taking to figure out Echo Lloyd's case. I do know that they have stated on numerous articles, I have them all linked down below, that the FBI was involved in the case, but according to Echo, the FBI has never been involved in the case. And I don't know why anyone from the sheriff's office or Highway Patrol would say that if that wasn't true. I don't know if maybe the FBI just hasn't gotten in contact with Kelsey, or if they're just kind of like working behind the scenes to offer manpower and she doesn't know. But to her knowledge, the FBI has not worked on anything. And it's just been Echo's family searching for her still. In February of 2021, they were able to organize a search through a group called Hearts on the Hunt. And they went through 174 acres in Warsaw looking for any possible evidence or signs of Echo. I don't know where exactly in Warsaw. I'm assuming hopefully around her home. That's where Kelsey's very focused on, understandably. I know most of the land that they covered is actually hunting land, which I find very important in cases that I'm going through, because obviously, hunting season's only certain times a year. According to what they said, no one really goes on this land otherwise, but hunting season's about to start now. At least where I am, it starts in September. Don't know what it's like there, but hunting season is about to start. People are about to be out and about. They need to know about Echo. Everyone in Warsaw needs to know about Echo. I hope her family will go and put signs up maybe along the different places where hunters typically enter this area. I think that's a great idea. Just be like, hey, while you're out, keep an eye out for these things. This is just such a heartbreaking case because Echo's family has gone just above and beyond. I'm telling you right now, there is like a fire lit inside of Kelsey that is unlike anything I've ever seen before. She's not going to give up. Her whole family is not giving up until they find Echo and bring her home, whether they get help or not. They are very determined. They have not lost momentum at all, and they need an army behind them to keep pushing them forward. I just am so thankful that there's so many people already that are following Bring Echo Home, that have donated to the GoFundMe. People that are willing to go out and do searches whenever they need. There have been times where Kelsey's been kicked out of Facebook pages that have been made for her mom by people that are not family, that are total strangers, which is so strange to me. She's asked a lot of questions to Benton County Police Department and Missouri State Highway Patrol, and according to our most recent live, at this point they're bouncing her around. Whenever she asks a question, they put all responsibility on the other investigating agency, and then she's just bounced back and forth and never ends up getting a final answer. Kelsey's family still strongly believes, along with a majority of her followers in their community, that foul play is involved, despite authorities not agreeing with this. There are recent articles that have been put out that show Echo's cousin saying that Echo's keys were actually found in the neighbor's home. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is, hello, red flags, somebody please come and help. And also in her recent lives, Kelsey has made it clear and made it known that this neighbor also either lived with his grandfather or was, very close to his grandfather. They lived in the same vicinity, but either way, this grandfather knew Kelsey very well. Through the neighbor, Echo would make him pies. They had a really great relationship. He would make her food. They traded food back and forth and, had a good time. And 2 weeks after Echo disappeared, this man was found on the floor with a broken back. And he'd been laying like that for 3 days. And the following day, he passed away in the hospital. And it was never investigated, despite, there being no known reason, from my understanding, how this happened. According to what Kelsey said, it wasn't just he fell and fractured his back. His back was quite literally broken in half. And Kelsey also stated that authorities had told her earlier on that this man would have to do it again for them to catch him. And the fact that they said that, and then there's this really bizarre accident with his grandfather that he either lives with or is close to, where he breaks his back 2 weeks after one of his favorite people in the world ends up going missing. It's just strange to me. I feel like there's just something so weird and deep going on here, and someone needs to come in and help this family. The FBI needs to come in. More needs to be done here because this is just not right. And the fact that the recent article suggests the keys were found in the neighbor's home after he directly told Kelsey that the keys had been taken away from him, I just don't understand. Why did Echo have no access to her phone, so it seems, or proper money when she went to Dollar General that day? I feel like it's apparent that she didn't have her phone if they're going to ask her if she needs to borrow theirs. We know that she spent money in Walmart. She signed off on it. She used a card. We know she had money there to get something. Why did she not have money to get something at Dollar General? And why did they feel she was unsafe to the point where they asked to walk her outside? I also find it interesting that the neighbor was there for Walmart, but not there for Dollar General. Did she go to them at the same time, or did she go to Walmart with the neighbor and then something happened and she came back to the Dollar General? Is it possible that after they left Walmart, she confronted him and was like, give me my stuff back and leave? Did she say that and then he just took it all and left, and that's why she went to Dollar General trying to purchase things and a mess and, feeling unsafe? We know that she was at least out that day, or her car was at least gone between 3:30 and 4. So I hope authorities have kind of put together a timeline. When was she at Walmart? When was she at Dollar General? Why was he there one time and not another? I mean, I just feel like there's so much here that could have been worked off of, and I really hope that it was worked off of. I personally feel like someone was in control of what she was doing all day of the 10th. That's just how I feel, because as a mother, if she had her phone all that day, I feel she would have reached out to her children unless someone directly told her not to or wouldn't let her. Is it possible that something really did happen to her away from home? If that were true, that would mean that someone would have had to have taken this receipt back to the house and staged her cigarettes and her purse, and then locked the door and left with the keys. And if that's true, that indicates that whoever did this is someone that knew exactly what she would do with her belongings and her routine, which really narrows things down a lot, to be quite frank. Or did she go to Dollar General later on in the day on her own after a possible argument ensued when she had finally put her foot down, to possibly try to go get some way to contact family? Maybe when she got back home, she saw that, her card and belongings and stuff were at the house. She put her card up and tried to go about her night and figure out what to do, and someone took her by surprise. If she had taken keys away from this individual, maybe they realized that window was unlocked and that's how they made their way in, and they forgot to shut it back. Again, that's just me questioning things, because if you think about it, if you're in a panic because someone you're not expecting to be there is there and you feel unsafe, what are the first things you're going to do? You're going to grab your keys, your phone to call for help, and you are going to just book it. You would leave your cigarettes and your lighter. Those don't matter. Forget your purse and your ID and your money. Maybe she was chased out of the house by someone. They did something to her outside or got her into the car and took her somewhere. And then they came back and, locked the door, left the car there, and disposed of all the things that she had with her. I know there's a lot of people online that wonder a lot about the construction going on at her house. I'm unsure if she was the one doing these renovations or if someone was helping her. Is it possible that there was a third party there doing construction on the house and they saw these desirable drugs and they were like, you know what, we're going to take these? But at that point, the motive will kind of be theft. And you would assume, okay, they're taking these drugs. They'd probably also take money, but her money was still in her purse. And then how did it go from taking a handful of pills to all of a sudden this woman's missing? I just feel like that would kind of escalate very, very quickly. And there would also be evidence of some sort of struggle within the home. The whole situation is just very bizarre. I personally do not understand a lot of the decisions that authorities have made, but at this point we all just need to really amplify Kelsey in hopes that it puts pressure on the investigating authorities to do a better job and to work harder, so that it puts pressure on whoever may know something to come forward and say something. There is a $9,000 reward. You guys, people have come together like crazy on this. There's a YouTuber that I have linked down below. I cannot for the life of me remember his name. I'm actually going to go look it up real quick. Duty Ron, he is a retired New York City detective, and he actually worked as a detective there, or in at least the New York City Police Department for 20 years. And he spoke with Kelsey and gave her a lot of really good tips, but he donated $1,000 to go towards the reward. There's a couple that donated $5,000 from the Facebook page. I've already made my own personal donation to her GoFundMe, and then there's also going to be a donation just on behalf of my channel. And I really encourage you guys to go and help leave donations as well, because I feel like the larger the tip is out there, the more likely someone will be more willing to talk. The family just really needs backing. They really need authorities to remember that Echo is important and needs to be found, and everyone is relying on them, to help them. There's only so much that Echo's family can do to get all these different people lined up to do searches and, You know, they have all of this and they're just waiting for authorities to meet them halfway, and it seems like it's just not happening. So I feel like this case needs to be put on blast. People need to remember who Echo is, what happened to her, and that people are still out there looking for her and aren't going to stop looking for her. She needs to be a NamUs. She needs to be an endangered missing person. Her description of the last thing she was wearing that was in those videos, hopefully that police have, she needs to be released. Echo had quite a few tattoos. She had one that said "Let It Be" on her forearm with kind of like birds trailing up. She has the name of all 4 of her children on her wrist. I'm not going to say all their names because I don't know if they want their names to be on here, but they all start with the letter K. And she also had a rose on her ankle, a blue butterfly on her chest, and a sexual abuse survivor band on her arm. She's 5'4" and she was around 110 pounds when she disappeared. Long brown hair, brown eyes, huge big smile. Please share her poster, share this video, share all of the videos down below where she just speaks to numerous individuals on podcasts and YouTube channels. She's been all over. Keep amplifying her voice. There was a big kind of spurt of information out there at the beginning of this last year and the end of last year, and now it just really needs to be boosted again. I highly suggest you guys follow the Bring Echo Home Facebook page and her website and the GoFundMe. They're all under the Bring Echo Home kind of like name. There are, I believe, others out there going by something different that is not run by family. They update as often as they possibly can. They hold candlelight vigils. They have held searches. They do ask for volunteers. They tell you who to contact to help out if you're in the area and you want to be a part of that. It's just the best way to keep up with what is going on in her case and how you can be actively trying to help their family. If you have any information at all on Echo's whereabouts, as always, I have all of that information linked down below of who you can get in contact with to hand all of that over. I also know that Kelsey has spoken out and said that if you are not comfortable reaching out to authorities, just send it to them in an email or a message or whatever on Facebook. They will get it to who it needs to go to. Honestly, this case has been a really big and important one in my eyes as well, because it introduced me to a lot of absolutely incredible true crime content creators on YouTube. And it's ones that I have never heard of before and never seen. And I feel like a lot of true crime, and I know so many of you will know what I'm talking about, it's like perceived as a very certain way. And it's very obvious who YouTube likes to amplify. But the people down below in my description box, those are the people we need to be amplifying right now. They have just absolutely blown my mind, and doing interviews, which is something I am just so not good at, and giving families advice and rallying to support these families. So honestly, go give each and every one of them a subscribe for me. It means the absolute world. That is the kind of content the true crime community needs to be made up of. But on that note, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and go. Thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to Echo's story and hear about why she needs to be brought home and why she's important to so many people. It means the world to me. I know it means the world to the family. And also, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button so you can be a part of the Howlin' fam, so that hopefully we can bring them home together. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.